Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? We're going to jump right into some Week 18 wide receiver research here in just a moment. But just to give everybody a heads up, in case for some reason you don't realize what the video is going to be about today or how it's going to be a little bit different if you missed our other videos this week, so far, the start and sit videos are not going to go like matchup by matchup like they have in the past. These start and sit videos, we're breaking players down into 3 different tiers in terms of if they're safe to play, if there's some sort of moderate risk, and if they're really risky. We're doing this because things are just so different in Week 18. Lots of teams could end up resting some players. Some people are out of it, some people are not. Lots of different things could pop up. And you know, one of those things is just like we saw with Justin Fields. They don't even want to risk it with him in Week 18, and they're just going to say, you know what, no Justin Fields, which would then take away obviously the people around him. So for us, we're going to look at the people who are going to be your safest to play, ones with moderate risk, and the ones that are by far the riskiest, and whether or not you should even consider them. And then we're going to kind of roll through a bunch of different players. Now, if somebody's not even fantasy relevant, like the Chicago wide receivers are not even listed here, because even with Justin Fields, they wouldn't be relevant. Even without him at this point, they're 100% not relevant. I'm not even going to bring them up. It's only going to be guys that I would be thinking about actually playing. So hit the like button, subscribe if you're new here. Let's jump into it. CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Dallas Cowboys are still in it, fighting for the 1 seed, fighting for the NFC East, fighting for a difference between like a 1 and a 5 seed right now. That's a big drop. They are going to come out ready to ball against Washington. He's got 3 straight games over 100 yards. I highly anticipate a big game from CeeDee Lamb. Amon-Ra St. Brown, the volume will be there for him. Even if for some reason Seattle wins earlier in the day and the Lions are mathematically out of it, they could still ruin the Packers' chances to get in. And Dan Campbell has already come out and said that he would love to do that at Green Bay if they are out of it for some reason. Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, both of them have huge matchups against Tennessee. The AFC South hangs in the balance. I mean, they could go from basically worst to first. I mean, let's go. Let's get them back on track. An absolutely devastating year last year with Urban Meyer at the helm, and now we're going to potentially win a conference championship, a division championship. Absolutely. But on top of that, they're getting one of the worst pass secondaries in all of football with Tennessee. Christian Kirk and Zay Jones will be high in my rankings this week. Oh, just want to remind everyone as well, too, I forgot to say this at the beginning, these aren't rankings. The order of the players that are going now are not their rankings, all right? So you are not going to put players in this order. The rankings will come out later in the week, just like we've always done. Tyreek Hill, I've got him as a 1, even though quarterback is a question mark at this point, who it's going to be. They're playing a really tough defense. Mathematically, they're still in it. They're going to need some things to go right. They're going to have to get a win. So I am going to start him. But the reason I have Tyreek Hill as a 1 and Jalen Waddle, who we'll see here in a few minutes, and he's a 2, is just because Tyreek Hill, I just think, is a much safer option at this point. And being one of the top receivers in all the league, we got to roll with him because we know he's going to be out there this week. A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, they could have Hurts back, and that's going to be really, really big for them going up against the New York Giants. The Giants aren't really playing for anything. They're kind of locked in at this point to where they're at. So for the Giants, yeah, you know, they could send guys out and potentially get a win and knock the Eagles down to the 5 seed, and that would be great. But what risk is there entailed with it? So who knows? They might be resting some starters. They may have some guys that are banged up that don't play at all. They may have some guys that at halftime they take out. Who knows? But for me, with A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, the Eagles are still playing for that 1 seed. They need to get a win going into the playoffs. If they lose another one, that's just absolutely horrible morale for this team to really just kind of be at the top of the league, and then all of a sudden they only have a wild card spot. Davante Adams, I told you last week that we were not going to sit him, so why would I sit him this week? Jarrett Stidham, he looked really, really good last week. Does he continue it? For Davante Adams, yeah, they might not be playing for anything, but they can still play to ruin Kansas City's playoff hopes. Not playoff hopes, but first seed hopes. So expect them to come out ready to ball. DK Metcalf. Metcalf is going to be safer than Lockett. The Seahawks are playing for their playoff hopes this week. Metcalf is going to be safer than Lockett, though. Lockett, those screws in his hand, I just still don't trust him this week. Yes, Both of them are coming off down performances last week. We'll see if they can bounce back against the LA Rams. The Green Bay wide receivers, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Allen Lazard. As of right now, for me, it's Lazard and it is Watson that will be the highest upside players. But you're going up against a Detroit team that allows a lot of yards to wide receivers. I guarantee you we're going to be seeing some big points out of the wide receivers this week. Stefon Diggs' first round bye is still up for grabs for this Buffalo team. You know, coming out of the issues, unfortunately, from the devastating injury that we saw this past week. What is that going to mean for this team, and how are they going to feel coming into this game against New England? There's one thing for certain. If you're looking at it from a pure football standpoint, they've got to go out there and they have got to win. If they lose, they're still in the playoffs, but you don't really want to lose your last game of the season to New England, let them into the playoffs potentially, and you find yourself without the opportunity for the first round bye. They're going to come out ready to play, just hopefully, just mentally wise. This team is feeling a lot better then when kickoff happens than what they probably are right now. The Cincinnati wide receivers, after the postponement, they still need a win to win the North. So it's not wrapped up as of yet. Going against Baltimore, you don't want Baltimore winning and then possibly backdooring into the playoffs somehow. Get the win against Baltimore, get the AFC North wrapped up, get done with them. We'll see what happens, though, over the weekend. They are still in the running for the 1 seed. DeAndre Hopkins, he has been hurt, but who will the quarterback be? There's lots of questions around him right now that we still don't know. That's why he's a 2. Marquise Brown is basically the same way. I don't know who the quarterback is going to be. I don't know if DeAndre Hopkins is going to play this week. No idea. Drake London's going to be a 2. And by 2, I mean like moderate risk, because I numbered them 1, 2, and 3, or green, yellow, and red. So for me, Drake London, I mean, he's had very safe performances over the last few weeks, and then he comes out last week and drops an absolute dud. They're going to have Tampa Bay this week. Again, Tampa Bay's not really playing for a whole lot at this point. They could still run their guys out there and try to potentially, keep but they're basically going to be locked into the 4 seed at this point, in my opinion. So for me, taking a look at what they could do and not do, they're going to kind of be locked in right there. Who cares if they win or lose? They need to be healthy and ready to go for the playoffs. Brandon Cooks, nothing more than playing for pride in Houston, going up against Indianapolis. He's a risk. He's a risk because he'll get targets as the only wide receiver, but he's not a 1 in terms of risk because the touchdown upside just hasn't been there for him. Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy, they're both going to be yellow here with a moderate risk. This is all based on Wilson's performance, which was better last week, but it's not going to win you any league, so they're still going to have some risk involved with them. Same thing for the LA Chargers, though. Are the LA Chargers going to send all their starters out there? For me, personally, I think they end up resting some people, especially if they get up big at some point in this game and they start to rest a few people, then Russell Wilson and these guys could come in and maybe take advantage of some garbage points. Jalen Waddle is going to be a 2 for me. Don't know who the quarterback has been. It is a very tough matchup, and he still is kind of second string to Tyreek Hill. So if you're wanting to start Jalen Waddle, that is fine. But again, there's going to be a moderate risk associated with that this week. Jacoby Myers, I mean, really in this matchup going up against Buffalo, we're kind of hoping that Myers can find the end zone again this week. Michael Pittman, plenty of volume, but there hasn't been a whole lot of upside for him. If he doesn't score a touchdown, you're probably only getting 6 or 7 fantasy points. Chris Olave, New Orleans isn't playing for anything. Carolina isn't playing for anything. He has been beat up, so we'll have to keep an eye on it and see, hey, if he's not 100%, does he even play this week? I would rather have that happen than have to go into this game wondering if Chris Olave is 100%. DJ Moore is going to be a 2 for me. He showed up big last week, but I don't want to get overexcited about it. We'll see if he can get, kind of keep that streak going to end the season here and to put up another big game for us. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones. I mean, there's no more risk with these guys than usual. Normally, with Amari Cooper, he's like a mid to low end wide receiver 2 for me. Had a huge game last week, so he greatly outperformed that. Donovan Peoples-Jones last week, he had that touchdown, but really other than that, he didn't do a whole lot. So he kind of comes in as like a wide receiver 3, which there's always going to be risk with. Brandon Ayuk, he's still big play dependent and touchdown dependent. So he is another guy who I've really kind of focused on being a wide receiver 2 type of player. Tyler Lockett, my biggest issue and my concern right now is that hand that has 9 screws in it. Justin Jefferson, the reason he is going to be a 2 for me is because Minnesota is basically wrapped up at this point. So the question is, if they were to get up big on Chicago, do they pull Justin Jefferson out of the game? Now, he was closing in on that single season record for most receiving yards. Unfortunately, that game last week really put a damper on that possibly happening. He would have to have a huge game to bypass that number. So the question becomes, does he end up falling into the category of saying, hey, he's going to play the whole game no matter what, and we're going to try to get him this record, or if we go up big, he's a guy that we're going to sit, all right? That's going to be my concern there for Justin Jefferson, if he's a guy that maybe only plays a half of football. Gabe Davis is going to be a 2 for me, kind of, again, the same concerns that I have, with Stephon Diggs. Yes, they are going to be playing. Yes, they are going to be going out there. Where's the mindset of the team? How focused are they? How are they able to come back and kind of rebound from the scary events this past week? But Gabe Davis brings concerns in his own right every week. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, both of these guys are going to be 2s. And even though Mike Evans is coming off an absolutely gigantic game, Chris Godwin had a good game in his own right. They're going up against Atlanta, a team that they could, absolutely dominate through the air. The problem with me with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin is the same thing. Is Tampa Bay really worried about whether or not they're a 4 or a 3 seed? For me, with Tampa Bay, more than likely you're going to be home for one game and then probably on the road the next game anyway. So who cares if you're a 3 or a 4 at that point? You want to be healthy. You want to be fully healthy for the playoffs. Get your one home game, win it, and then get an opportunity to extend your playoffs. For me, if they get up big on Atlanta in the first quarter, first half, I think we start to see Evans and Godwin come out of the game along with Tom Brady and everybody else. The Los Angeles Chargers wide receivers, kind of the same thing. I mean, I'm not even 100% sure that these guys are going to play this week. They're saying that they will. They're saying that they're going to go out and play against Denver, but you've got a Keenan Allen who's been banged up all season long. Why risk it? You're in the playoffs. Don't worry about getting him banged up. Mike Williams is a guy throughout his entire career has had issues with injuries. Don't hurt him. Don't get him banged up going into the playoffs. Just make it out of week 18 healthy. Now, what about the guys that carry the most risk for me this week? DJ Chark is a guy that we've been trying to start quite a bit as of recently. He's probably going to see some Jair Alexander on him, who just completely shut down Justin Jefferson last week. I'm not as optimistic about trying to start DJ Chark this week as I have been in the past. The Kansas City wide receivers, they just spread the ball around way too much. This is a pretty decent matchup for them, but outside of Travis Kelce, everybody sees, a good amount of targets throughout the game. We're not seeing one person get so many targets that they're the guy that it's like, all right, we got to focus on him as the number 2 in this offense. Juju has done it at times, but Kadarius Toney is healthy now. When will Mecole Hardman be back? Those are all question marks. The New York Giants wide receivers, at this point, normally we wouldn't really play any of them anyway if it weren't for a really good matchup. But now you got a tough matchup against Philadelphia, and you don't need to play the guys for any reason. So are these guys that see some time on the bench as well? If, Philadelphia gets up big, if New York gets up big, maybe there's just some guys that are like, we just need them healthy and we don't really play them a whole lot of snaps. The Washington wide receivers. Now, when I went through all these notes, Carson Wentz was still going to be the starter. They have said that they're going to move to Sam Howell now, which for me, I'm not really bumping any of them. If you're looking for a high upside play, it's Terry McLaurin. Jahan Dotson is highly touchdown dependent. They're facing a Dallas team that is going to want to win this game. So as far as I'm concerned with the Washington wide receivers, they are extremely risky this week. Garrett Wilson is going to be extremely risky again. It's going up against Miami, so there is an opportunity there. But every single week we've seen up and down performances from Garrett Wilson where he's a top 12 wide receiver one week, and then all of a sudden he's got a top 12 anticipated matchup, and he ends up bombing for us. Now, a lot of times that is, for the quarterback, and that's going to be the same thing here. Mike White will probably look his way. He saw 11 targets last week, but he was only able to catch 3 of those. So Garrett Wilson for me is still a guy that maybe you would play, but he's highly risky for me. And then the Pittsburgh wide receivers. For the Pittsburgh wide receivers, there's just not a whole lot of upside with this offense right now. volume in terms of targets seem to be there for the most part, but you're not seeing the upside touchdown potential that you would have liked to see in other matchups. They're going to be getting Cleveland this week. Cleveland is going to want to spoil their streak of seasons over 500. They're going to want to do that. The Pirates. It's not baseball season yet. Kyle, calm down. The Steelers still have an opportunity to make the playoffs, but can that happen? More than likely at this point, they would have to win and get a lot of help. So there's still an outside shot. They're going to give it their all, but the wide receivers for me don't have a whole lot of upside. But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. My wide receivers start and sit research. I know this video is a little bit different than what you're used to, but hopefully you got some more information from this, and make sure you check out our rankings videos coming out later on, so you have a little bit more of an idea of where we've got certain guys ranked. So appreciate everybody tuning into this video. Peace out, stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.